The following recording was created by the Regional Educational Laboratory Southeast at Florida State University. Information and materials for this recording are supported by the Institute of Education Sciences, National Center for Education Evaluation and Regional Assistance, Regional Educational Laboratory Southeast at Florida State University. Contract ED-IES-17-C-0011 as resources and examples for the listener's convenience. Their inclusion is not intended as an endorsement by the Regional Educational Laboratory Southeast or its funding source, the Institute of Education Sciences. In addition, the activities and instructional model discussed in this recording are not intended to mandate, direct, or control a state's local educational agencies or schools' specific instructional content, academic achievement system and assessments, curriculum, or program of instruction. State and local programs may use any instructional content, achievement system and assessments, curriculum, or program of instruction they wish.
So let's hear from Ashley again. So as a student, what are the ways that you personally experience personalized learning at Innovation Academy? And what are some other ways that your experience there is different from your experience in other schools?
Well, my experience at Innovation Academy was definitely different than in a traditional setting. Before Innovation Academy, I didn't feel that I would be able to thrive as a learner in the setting that I was in. I didn't feel very challenged and found myself memorizing content instead of truly grasping and understanding the concepts being taught. Innovation Academy focuses on students learning and applying what we learn in the classroom, while again, having the options to explore the topics that we're interested in. So for example, one of my favorite projects that I created while at Innovation Academy was on the Peruvian Independence War for social studies. At the time, we had just finished a unit on the American Revolutionary War, so our teacher, Miss Kelly, gave us the option to research a war that we really wanted to learn about. And because my family comes from Peru in South America, that's a war that I decided to research. And with my cultural background being so important to me, I felt thrilled at this opportunity to learn about such a rich part of Peru's history. And I remember my mom being as excited as I was to start the research, and having her being so proud of me after I showed her my end result. But also something really great at Innovation Academy is the responsibility that us as students, as pioneers, have about our learning. The grading scale is really different than a traditional A, B, or C. Instead, it's a scale from 1 to 4, with 1 being not mastered the content yet, and 4 being complete mastery. At first, I was really surprised by this grading because I had never seen such a thing. However, I felt that this made me a better learner in numerous ways. I no longer focused on what percentage or number I got on a paper. Instead, I truly wanted to learn the material. I was also able to discuss with my teachers one-on-one on an individual level to determine what I needed to work on and how I would need to focus, what I needed to focus on to reach complete mastery. But now that I'm at early college, I have found that both environments are very similar. Though I am a fully virtual student at the moment at the early college, I'm still able to receive personalized learning and the option to, again, take control of my learning. I felt that Innovation Academy prepared me for this rigorous environment that was to come, so the transition from middle school to high school wasn't too much to handle. I am still tremendously grateful for all the lessons I've learned at Innovation Academy, and will take them on to the rest of my high school years, as well as beyond onto university.
So it sounds like culture is very important. So we'll just kind of go around and let everyone jump in, but how does the culture at Innovation Academy truly support equity in the environment that Ashley just described for students?
So for me, the term culture, I think about soil. And I know that might sound like a very interesting parallel, but stay with me here. So soil, there are certain types of plants and crops, whatever, that grow well in certain types of soil. And so using that example, there are some things that grow well in sandy soil, not a lot of things, but some things. But there are reasons why certain parts of the United States and the world have greater farmland, because the soil and other factors, of course, play into that. But if the soil's not right, then nothing grows, right? So culture is the soil, and ours is fertile because we intentionally nurture it and water, and we build that trust. We stay aligned to our why. Again, going back to hiring, people agree to, and I would say it's more than buy-in or even ownership. It's investment. Like, it's intentional investment in not only their practices individually, but with one another and the bigger mission. Some people might say, oh, well, you guys, you pick your own students, you do all those kinds of things. Sure, with our focus on first generation college students from impoverished areas. But that being said, we're part of the Johnston County public school system, but we are an option. And so we have to continue being a positive, attractive option, for people to continue to exist. And so I think that's important, as well as, not only building from the start and creating that fertile soil of culture, but continuing to expand it so that it is a place where people see themselves growing. Students, teachers, their students and their families, as well as, our colleagues who might take something from, some of the things that we're doing and perhaps incorporate it into some of their practices. And I want to say this too, it's from the front door all the way through in every corner of the building. There's not a single person at our school that doesn't take to heart and with sincerity how important their role is with our vision. It's me, it's our custodian, it's our office staff, it's our teachers, it's everybody from start to finish. Culture belongs to every single person, and we all choose, how we interact with one another, and we choose to make it a positive experience, with every single person that comes through our doors. And so that's something too, is that ownership exists among the entire team. There's no one person more important than another. And so that's a really important part of our culture as well. We say Ubuntu, which is an African term for I am because we are. So it speaks to that interdependence, but also the individuality that we bring. And for us, we have such a wide range of people on our team in terms of their backgrounds and experiences and viewpoints and beliefs, but all of that plays into a positive outcome with one another and our students because we choose for it to. We don't let it be a barrier. We put it out on the table. Hey, this is what we know about each other. Cool, no problem. And then we move on, and we use it as an asset.
Amy, did you have anything to add on culture?
I have actually a really funny story. And Ashley, I hope this doesn't embarrass you. When Ashley was a 6th grade student, she brought up something that made me laugh out loud over here because it's so true. So 6th grade, I feel like, as a team on 6th grade, we face the biggest culture change. They're coming from all these different elementary schools with all this preconceived notions on how school is and what it's going to be. And IA is so different from a traditional middle school. And I know that because I've taught at them in Johnston County, that we kind of are like that first barrier into what is this place? What does this all mean? Why? And then like that little moment of like, and Ashley was such an eager young lady in 6th grade, and she wanted to do so well. Her mindset was in the right place, immediately coming in. But because everything was so different, I remember you, Ashley, coming up to me and being like, but what did I get? But how many did I miss? Well, I don't understand. Like, why can't you tell me how many I missed? What does that mean? I get a B? Like, and that culture change with you. I remember working with you and being like, I'm not telling you how many you missed. I'm just not even going to tell you, because that was her focal point. And it wasn't, how much did I learn in this standard? So, but I do remember that. I remember you being so eager and being like, can you just tell me? Can you just tell me? Can you just tell me? And Ashley learning how to advocate for herself and wanting to ask questions. I remember that everyone starts off a little shy, a little meek. They're like, I don't know if I can ask questions. I don't know. And Ashley turned into this like, I have a question and you need to help me right now. And I was so proud of her because that's what we want. We want students to be like, I need you right now. And sometimes when she needed me, she actually didn't need me. So we also had those fun conversations like, no, you got this. Read that again. I know you got this. And like teaching her how to, when she needed me and when she actually didn't need me. But that's all part of that culture change. And I do remember you specifically, Ashley, very vividly, because you were a student we talked about as a team, watching you change from beginning to end. Other things, again, I just said it, talking to the team. This can't happen without that. Sometimes, when I help set a culture, we all had the same culture we're trying to set with our students, every single person on my team. How we do it is all different. So that's kind of cool too, because if a student is not relating to how I'm doing it, they can go next door to Miss Dilly and they may catch on to how she's doing it or vice versa. So we use each other as staff too, to be like, hey, were you able to make that connection with that student? I'm struggling to, they have a barrier up against me right now. And the other teacher may be like, we got it. And I'm like, perfect. Let's go through you then. And you can't do that without being able to walk across the hall and be like, hey, I need your help. Or, hey, can you help me understand how this went so I can do it too? And obviously we're in constant communication with students and parents, constant. I'm in constant communication with my students and parents, either through, this year, email. Ooh, baby, email. Years before, it's been conferences or open houses or orientations. And, the student-led conferences, we tend to have people walking through our building a lot, again, minus this past year. And I love this piece, the celebrating the success piece. When a student does get it, I don't know if Ashley can remember back then, but like, I remember throwing parties. We did class dojo points. We did, celebrating a culture change is like throwing a little mini party. And again, that is different per student. Some students would be crazy embarrassed if I did that for them. They'd be like, oh, what are you doing right now? So I wouldn't do that for some students, but like Ashley, I remember being like, yes, and like throwing arms up and celebrating her. And I know Miss Daughtry would do that too. She would sometimes sing. I don't do that, but we have those moments where we are like rewards, positive behavior reinforcement. We go hard on that to try to model what the culture is and when they get it and when they're successful. And we do that to model for other students too. Like, yeah, she can do it, which means you can do it, and like go over and show them. And it's, so it's definitely the culture change. I would feel like in 6th grade, it's definitely the most shocking. And then it kind of smooths as years go on. And even when we get new students in halfway through the year, when they look at their peers doing everything and how their peers react to things, those new students shockingly modify and find their place like very quickly. I've yet to have a new student that's been resistant because all their peers are doing it. All their teachers are doing it. They're seeing it everywhere. So it's even less of a shell shock for new students because it's everywhere. So they just kind of fall right in, even as 6th graders. It's remarkable.
Awesome. Ashley, we'll give you a chance to add to that too, if you'd like.
Well, yes, definitely. Just like Ms. Raddick said, coming from a traditional elementary school, from being in a traditional setting, I guess your entire school life before middle school, it was definitely like a shock, right? To, enter this new environment with teachers really being one-on-one with you and focusing on you, not just, as a whole, but also being able to communicate just one-on-one. But even with that whole, as Ms. Raddick said, culture change, the environment at Innovation Academy is so kind and open to everyone, no matter where they come from, what their interests are, or what their past may look like. And then at the end of the day, we know our teachers are there to support us, no matter how big or small the obstacles that we face are. But at Innovation Academy, we always feel like our voices can be heard, and we're encouraged to express our thoughts and concerns to the teacher. And, we'll always get a response. We'll always be able to talk about what we're feeling, not just having to bottle it all up and feel like you can't express yourself. But our teachers always wanted the best for their students. And they gave us so many opportunities to grow. And as I said, improve as individuals, like traveling to elementary schools to speak about our program and having us students talk about our experiences, kind of like what I'm doing right now, but to the students who are looking to apply, to hear a little bit more about Innovation Academy, as well as hosting PBL events, project-based learning, where parents, families, teachers, and others come to watch us showcase our learning in a setting where where we can really express our ideas and propose our ideas, not just to the teachers in our peers. We can talk to anyone really. So we learn to step out of our comfort zone and gain skills that we need not only in school, but in life. But I always felt like everyone was welcome there. And no matter what, you could always make a friend, or you can always talk to a teacher. I remember asking Mr. Parker, my science teacher, for help on math when I was in his block. So after I finished doing my science schoolwork, I would try to, get ahead on my math assignments. And I just always felt that I could go to any teacher and ask for help, whether it was about school or, just in life in general.
So what are your next steps? What are the next steps at Innovation Academy for ensuring equity in your approach to learning, personalized learning, focusing on your 4 pillars?
I don't know how I keep getting to follow Ashley, but it's a tall order to fill. I'm going to tell you that. No, just hearing her talk for me is validation. It's full circle in a way. When we stepped into this journey, and had some barriers, of course, at the beginning and along the way, some obstacles, some that were anticipated and some that were unexpected. But not being able to answer the question, how does your approach translate for kids going into high school? I feel like I can answer that now. There's Ashley, and then there are many others that I hear from my colleagues. They say, we just know who the pioneers are. We've begun to be able to recognize who they are. They carry themselves differently. They speak differently. They work differently. And so no matter what setting they're in, Ashley's at the early college, but we have students all over the place. And what I hear is that they just know how to ask for help in a respectful way. And they know the value of working hard. And so we think that happens through our core values. So it's not just our academic approach. It's also, our core values of working intentionally on problem solving and relationships and collaboration. What do those things actually look like in practice? What does it mean to be resilient? What does it mean to be adaptable? And to give them opportunities to practice that. And so that's mastery of those core values, but also of our learning standards, the 3 years that they're with us, when they're first year pioneers, second year and third year, continuing to work through those standards for mastery so that when they go on to the next level, they have mastered as many standards and competencies as possible at a deep level as well, going into high school. And they can say and show specifically what it is that they know and how they know that they know it, which I think is a huge a piece of that as well. In our professional development, Dee talked about it earlier, but in our professional development, we leverage the capacity within alongside our friends from RTI and with the assistance of the REL, because so often, and this is my 20th year in this profession, starting out as a 6th grade social studies teacher back in 2001. And yes, I saw myself as a social studies teacher, not a teacher of children through social studies. So that has been a mindset shift for me as well, which I think is an important language shift, right, and mindset shift. But in those 20 years, I've experienced a lot of different professional development opportunities, and very rarely have those been personalized. And so in our environment, they are more personalized. Our staff has choices, and when we model that in our adult professional learning opportunities, we give them the liberty and the freedom and the know-how to do the same thing for kids. And that goes for how we structure learning, that goes for how we speak to one another, how we make other people feel, acknowledged, seen, just lots of different things. So we're constantly teaching how to operate, right? And so we also subscribe to the belief that if we ever believe that we're there, then it's time to close it up. We have to constantly continue to seek and search and adapt and pivot. We've used the word pivot a lot over the last year, how we pivot from one plan to another, one, day to another. So that looking for ways to constantly improve. And for me personally, that is to try to stay ahead of this staff. Amy talked about how high functioning rock stars they are. I mean, that's my challenge, right? Is to like, I've got this team of Michael Jordans, how do I Phil Jackson this situation, right? And so that's the challenge, and keeping them, all those individual rock stars, interdependent and interconnected, when it would be so easy for them to just self-isolate. And I know that has a different meaning now than what I intended in this context, but self-isolate in that they could go to their separate islands, close the door, do what they do. But like you heard Amy speak about, that interconnectedness is what really, that's the special stuff. That's the special sauce right there. And so, continuing to find ways to intentionally build and nurture that. And we just have to stay true to our 4 pillars, and that strong foundation that's built for us on the right kind of soil with the culture, right? So those are solid starts that most schools don't have. They don't have that benefit, of starting that way. We have different challenges that come our way, than other schools in terms of our continued operation and trying to get the word out about us. But it's just to stay true to ourselves, and to continue to revisit what that looks like, and further iterations of the pillars and moving forward.
Amy or Dee, anything that you would add to next steps?
I would like to add, that's the next steps for me. And this is again, I think, a product of the teachers that we look to hire too. But for me, when I worked at a traditional, let's say I used to work at a traditional middle school and high school before I came here. I made my curriculum and that was it. And then the next year I tweak one thing and that was it. And I teach again. I have yet to do that. At the 4 years I've been at IA, I feel like I'm creating new curriculum every year. Every year I want to add something. I want to improve on something. And it's nice wanting to do that. No one's over there this is no good, you have to change everything. I'm never ever experienced that at the school, but I need to change it. And when I'm watching my other peers teach, I'm I need to do that. I need to add that. That's a good idea. How do I do that next year? So every year I'm oh, I got it. Finally, I can relax. I have yet to do that. I have yet to only tweak one thing and be I'm good. It feels like I'm never at that spot, which is a good thing. That means I'm wanting to get better. I need to get better. There's always room for growth. And I recognize that. And my teammates recognize that. Every year we sit together and we're we need to do this next year. And then we all look at each other and go, why are we doing this to ourselves? But then we all end up being no, we need to do it next year. So that is, again, intentional. And it's a product of us learning from each other. My first year at IA felt like a first year teacher all over again. It was my 4th year of teaching, but it was my first year of teaching. So I'm in my 8th year of teaching, but I feel like I'm in my 4th. It's an interesting mindset for me. In fact, whenever I'm told it was my renewal year, that I was 8 years in, I was no way. 8 years in, no way. It doesn't feel like that. But yeah, I like that my staff holds me accountable, and I like that I want to hold myself accountable for my staff and for my students. I don't really need that. I have the intrinsic, but because I have that intrinsic, it drives even my intrinsic even more. So it's a cool place.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to so much, and Kelly has already stated actually two of the things that I'm looking forward to. Well, actually one, but before I go there, I have to say this. I think the staff actually, they are the epitome of a Zulu term, which is Salvona, which means I see you. And it gets to the point of them being very intentional in the personalized learning that they provide for students, because they're focused and they're intentional about seeing every child. It's not about giving every pioneer at the school the same, but it's about giving every pioneer what they need. And they embody that. And so, so I am looking forward to continued opportunities to work with this awesome staff. I mean, to work with them collaboratively in presenting and facilitating professional learning, as well as, just the continued work in bringing research and evidence-based practices to support what the awesomeness that is happening there at the schools. So kudos, commendations to the staff, to the students at Innovation Academy.
So Kelly, we'll give you the last word. Is there anything that we didn't ask that you would like to share with us, or do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, just that, for us, it's sharing the message, right? We're all so focused on the work, and we kind of stay within our bubble because, that's where we believe our energy should be. And so, just having the opportunity to really to get the message out there about what we're doing, because we don't want to be hidden. We don't want to be a best kept secret. We want to be of value and a resource to others. We've got our 300, and as you can see in Ashley, they are well taken care of, well invested in, well prepared. But we want to be able to have a larger impact, as well, not because we have all the answers, but because we have some really strong processes for continuing to seek them. And I think that again starts with culture and knowing what you're about. So I just really appreciate the platform. I really appreciate Ashley, you being proactive and emailing your teacher and saying, hey, I'm going to be a little late for class, and being here with us. Your voice has been powerful for me personally today, and I know that it will have ripple effects for anyone who hears this as well. And Amy, from your perspective, as well as a person who jumped on to we didn't know what from the start, right? I mean, none of us really knew. We knew what we wanted it to look like, but just sticking through the good, bad, and everything in between to get us to where we are, and being able to articulate in the way that you do. I just really appreciate that, and Dee, for your support, and Laura and Kayla, and for RTI International and the REL, just for continuing to provide us with those resources to push our specific work forward, understanding that it is so unique.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Kelly, Amy, and Ashley, and Dee, for sharing with us today. And thank you all for listening.